On a chilly February morning in 2019, the quiet town of Cedar Hills, Oregon, was rocked by a crime so shocking that it would haunt the community for years. What seemed like a routine day took a dark turn when the lifeless body of 26-year-old Samantha Edwards was found in her upscale suburban home. Known for her radiant smile and kind demeanor, Samantha's murder was a stark contrast to the life she presented to the world. Samantha Edwards was the quintessential small-town girl who appeared to have it all. At 26, she was newly married to Dylan Edwards, a promising young accountant with a bright future ahead. They had just moved into their dream home, a cozy yet stylish house with a white picket fence and a well-manicured lawn. To everyone around them, they were the picture-perfect couple, embodying youthful love and ambition. But as with many stories that seem perfect, there were secrets lurking beneath the surface. Samantha worked as a marketing assistant at a local advertising firm where she was known for her creativity and work ethic. She was determined, intelligent, and had big dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. However, her drive success wasn't the only thing motivating her. Behind the closed doors of her office, Samantha's life was far more complicated. Samantha's boss, Victor Grant, was a charismatic yet domineering figure in his early 60s. He was a successful businessman known for his charm, but also for his ruthless pursuit of what he wanted. Married 3 times and a father of 2 adult children, Victor had a reputation as a ladies' man despite his age. He was respected and feared in equal measure, with a sharp eye for talent and an even sharper eye for vulnerable young women in his company. Victor took a particular interest in Samantha from the moment she started working for him. He often complimented her on her work, offering career advice and personal guidance that went beyond professional boundaries. Initially, Samantha brushed off his advances as harmless, but as time went on, Victor's attention became more intense and personal. He was always there with a listening ear, and Samantha found herself drawn into his world. What began as after-hours meetings to discuss work soon turned into long, private dinners where Victor would regale Samantha with stories of his successes and charm her with his worldly knowledge. Samantha, who often felt overshadowed by her husband's stable but unexciting demeanor, was flattered by Victor's attention. He made her feel seen, desired, and special in ways Dylan never did. By late 2018, Samantha and Victor's relationship had crossed a line. Their secret affair was an open secret in the office, but no one dared to speak of it. They met in discreet locations, always careful not to be seen together in public. Victor lavished Samantha with expensive gifts, from designer bags to weekends at luxury resorts. But it wasn't just the material things that kept Samantha hooked. She was addicted to the thrill, the secrecy, and the feeling of power that came with being desired by a man like Victor. Yet as passionate as the affair was, it was also fraught with tension. Victor's possessive nature began to surface, and he became increasingly controlling of Samantha's time and decisions. He would call her at odd hours, demanding her attention, and their once exciting rendezvous turned into heated arguments. Samantha found herself trapped between the safety of her marriage and the dangerous allure of her affair. She wanted to break free but feared the consequences of crossing Victor, who was not a man accustomed to being denied. On the night of February 13th, Samantha met Victor at their usual spot, a secluded cabin Victor owned on the outskirts of town. What happened next would change everything. As Samantha arrived at Victor's cabin that night, she was already on edge. The icy wind whipped through the trees, creating an eerie backdrop to their increasingly tumultuous relationship. She had spent the entire day grappling with guilt and fear. Guilt over betraying her husband, and fear of what Victor might do if she tried to end things. Samantha had decided it was time to break free, but she knew Victor wouldn't let go easily. Victor greeted her with his usual charm, but Samantha's mind was elsewhere. She nervously fiddled with her phone, contemplating the best way to tell Victor that it was over. Victor, sensing her unease, tried to lighten the mood with wine and small talk, but Samantha's demeanor remained tense. Finally, she found the courage to speak. "We need to stop this, Victor," Samantha said, her voice trembling. "I can't keep doing this. It's not right and it's tearing me apart." Victor's smile faded instantly, replaced by a cold, calculating expression. He set his glass down with a sharp clink and stared at her, his eyes narrowing. "Stop? You think you can just walk away?" he said, his voice low and threatening. "You owe me, Samantha, after everything I've done for you." Samantha stood her ground, but Victor's reaction terrified her. The charm that had once captivated her was gone, replaced by a man consumed by jealousy and control. As their argument escalated, Victor's tone became more aggressive, and he began berating Samantha, accusing her of using him and threatening to ruin her career if she left him. "You think Dylan's gonna take you back after he finds out what you've been up to? You'll lose everything," Victor snarled. "And if you think I'm going to let you go that easily, "You're wrong." Samantha's fear turned to anger. She had been manipulated and controlled for too long, and she wasn't going to let Victor intimidate her anymore. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door, but Victor blocked her path. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Victor grabbed Samantha's arm, pulling her back into the cabin. "Don't touch me," Samantha shouted, trying to push him away. But Victor's grip tightened, and in the heat of the moment, he shoved her hard. Samantha stumbled backward, hitting her head on the edge of a wooden table. The impact was brutal, and Samantha collapsed to the floor, unconscious and bleeding. Victor stood frozen, staring at Samantha's motionless body. Panic surged through him as he realized the gravity of what he had done. His mind raced, searching for a way out, but the evidence was damning. Samantha's phone, their texts, the gifts, everything pointed back to him. In a moment of desperation, Victor made a fateful decision. He would stage the scene to look like an accident. Victor hurriedly cleaned the blood from the table's edge and repositioned Samantha's body near the stairs to make it appear as if she had fallen. He wiped down any surfaces he might have touched, trying to erase his presence from the cabin, but in his frantic state, he missed crucial details: small traces of blood on his clothes, a strand of Samantha's hair clinging to his jacket. Satisfied that he had covered his tracks, Victor fled the scene, leaving Samantha alone in the cold, dark cabin. He drove back to his office, shaking and drenched in sweat, trying to convince himself that no one would ever connect him to the crime. He made a series of calls, creating an alibi that placed him at work during the critical hours. But deep down, Victor knew it was only a matter of time before the truth surfaced. The next morning, Dylan Edwards arrived home from his business trip to find his wife missing. After several frantic calls and unanswered texts, he reported Samantha missing to the police. The search led officers to Victor's cabin, where they made the grim discovery. Samantha was found at the foot of the stairs, her body cold and lifeless. Detective Linda Harris, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for her keen instincts, was assigned to the case. From the outset, something about the scene didn't sit right with her. The blood pattern, the position of the body, none of it added up to a simple fall. Harris's suspicion only deepened when she learned about Samantha's affair with Victor Grant. Detective Linda Harris wasted no time diving into the investigation. From the moment she set foot in Victor's cabin, she felt a chill that went beyond the cold February air. Harris had seen countless crime scenes in her 20-year career, but something about Samantha Edwards' death felt off. The careful staging, the faint smell of bleach, and the oddly placed furniture all pointed to a desperate attempt to cover up the truth. Harris's first priority was to dig into Samantha's life and relationships. Interviews with friends and co-workers painted a picture of a woman who was driven, kind, but also conflicted. Whispers of her affair with Victor Grant quickly made their way to Harris's ears, and it didn't take long for her to piece together the likely chain of events. Harris knew Victor's reputation well. He was powerful, influential, and had a history of crossing boundaries. When Harris brought Victor in for questioning, he appeared composed, almost too calm. He expressed shock at Samantha's death and insisted that their relationship had been strictly professional. Victor portrayed himself as a mentor who had taken a special interest in helping Samantha's career, dismissing any rumors of an affair as office gossip. But Harris wasn't buying it. "Victor, you seem pretty composed for someone who just lost a close colleague," Harris said, eyeing him carefully. "Are you sure there's nothing else you want to tell me?" Victor's response was measured, but Harris caught the slight twitch in his jaw, a telltale sign of discomfort. "Detective, I have nothing to hide. Samantha was talented and I saw potential in her, that's all. Whatever she was going through, I had no part in it." As Harris pressed further, Victor's polished facade began to crack. He slipped up, admitting that he had been in contact with Samantha the night before her death, contradicting his earlier claim of being at work. Harris knew she was onto something, but without concrete evidence, she couldn't hold him. She needed more than just suspicion. She needed proof. Harris turned her attention to Samantha's phone records and bank statements, hoping to find a trail that would lead her to the truth. What she found was startling. In the weeks leading up to her death, Samantha had been withdrawing large sums of money from her joint account with Dylan, money that was unaccounted for. The transactions were traced to cash payments made to Victor's private accounts, disguised as consulting fees. The digital trail was damning, but it wasn't enough to prove murder. Harris needed something that would directly link Victor to the crime scene. Forensic analysis of the cabin revealed faint traces of blood that had been hastily wiped away, and a small strand of blonde hair was found on a jacket stashed in Victor's office. The evidence was building, but Harris needed one final piece to make her case airtight. She ordered a thorough search of Victor's property, including his office, office, car, and the cabin. During the search, detectives found a hidden drawer in Victor's desk containing photos of him and Samantha, capturing intimate moments that clearly documented their affair. The final blow came when forensic experts matched the blood on Victor's jacket to Samantha's, placing him at the scene during the time of her death. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Victor's composure finally shattered. He broke down in the interrogation room, his carefully constructed lies crumbling. He admitted to his affair with Samantha, but maintained that her death had been a tragic accident. Victor claimed he had pushed her in the heat of the moment, but he never intended to kill her. "I just lost control," Victor sobbed, burying his face in his hands. "She said she was leaving and I couldn't let her go. I never meant for this to happen." Harris listened, unmoved by Victor's tears. She knew his confession would be enough to secure a conviction, but the real tragedy was the senseless loss of a young life caught in the web of deceit and manipulation. The case went to trial in October 2019, drawing widespread media attention. The courtroom was packed with spectators, eager to see the downfall of a powerful man who had let his desires and ego destroy everything around him. The prosecution painted Victor as a predatory boss who used his influence to control and ultimately kill Samantha Edwards. Victor's defense team argued that the death was an accident, a tragic result of a lover's quarrel gone wrong, but the jury was not swayed. After days of deliberation, they found Victor Grant guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial's verdict brought a bittersweet closure to those who had been touched by Samantha's tragic death. Dylan Edwards, devastated by the loss of his wife and the revelations of her secret life, decided to leave Cedar Hills, unable to bear the memories that haunted every corner of their home. He moved closer to his family, hoping to rebuild his life away from the painful reminders of what had been lost. Victor Grant's downfall served as a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating impact of toxic relationships. The once celebrated businessman was now just another inmate, his reputation destroyed and his legacy tarnished beyond repair. The media frenzy that had surrounded the trial slowly died down, but the story of Samantha Edwards lingered in the public's mind, a cautionary tale of how passion, deceit, and control could lead to deadly consequences. Detective Linda Harris, though satisfied with the outcome, knew that there were no real winners in this case. A young woman was dead, a family torn apart, and a once promising life extinguished far too soon. Harris continued her work, moving on to the next case, but Samantha's tragic story stayed with her, a reminder of the fragile line between love and obsession. In the end, Samantha Edwards' life and death became a somber warning that the allure of forbidden desires can come at the highest price. Cedar Hills would never forget the young wife, whose secret affair with her powerful boss ended in brutal murder, a story that would forever cast a shadow over the town.